new intro, did you like it? I like it, I spent a lot of time on it. I know, my username is different. We'll talk about that in another video, I promise. This video has taken so much more time and energy than I anticipated it taking, which is a lot, because I put a lot of time and energy into these to begin with. But oh my goodness, this voiceover specifically has caused me so much trouble. This is probably my 10th take, but I'm here to try again. It's a new day, and it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna get this video out. I really want to talk about some stuff that is specific to this video. I want this video to get out so badly. And I'll admit, I'm not proud of it. It's one of my less desirable traits, but I can be a very, very stubborn person, especially when it comes to my own creative projects. So this video is coming out one way or another. It will come out. So hello, welcome to the cabin. If you're new here, my name is Mo, I'm studying film, and I do a lot of character design, story writing, comic stuff. Now, if you see my last video, this one might seem a little bit ironic, and if you haven't watched my last video, I highly recommend you do, because it'll provide a lot of context for this one. But I'm gonna be explaining a lot of it anyway, so if you just rather listen to me ramble about my experiences, feel free to stick around. I do feel like I should warn you, though, before we get into it completely, there is a lot of lore to this video. This is like what I feel like I can't upload this video without also giving you all the information about my thoughts behind it. What I'm trying to say is there's gonna be a lot of information thrown your way in this video, and if that's not something you can handle right now, please take care of yourself and proceed with caution. Okay, I've given you your warning, we've done the intro, I hope you have some water and a snack, and I hope you're comfortable, because this one's gonna be a lot. So, where do I start? Back in April, I did a character revamp video where I took one of my oldest characters named Jemmy, who was one of the main protagonists of my first comic fantasy that was started in 2016. That is a sentence. And I tried to redesign her in a way where it looks like something I would create today, but you can still tell that it's the same character. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, just go watch the video. I'll explain it more there. I had a blast. I love how the design came out. I loved making it, and people liked it. So a month later, I uploaded another one, this time featuring a sentient robot character named Jolt, who I believe was one of the more beloved characters of the fantasy crew. He was certainly beloved by me. I was really excited to work on him. But I very quickly ran into a problem. I'm not good at designing robots. I'm sure with some practice I could be, but that's the thing. I didn't have a lot of practice because very soon after Fantasy was canceled, the whole Jolt being a robot idea was pretty much ditched as a whole. The new stories that I was trying to write for the Fantasy crew didn't really have a reason for there to be a sentient robot character. And he was like one of the only robot characters I ever had. So as soon as he was put to the side, I just didn't have a reason to draw robots. So nowadays I find it difficult to conceptualize a mechanical design in my head. Thankfully, my good pal Frankie/Capano is really good at designing robots, and it helped me out a lot. And you'll never guess, but I love how it came out. I liked it a lot, you guys seem to like it a lot. I really like how the video itself came out too. I think it's one of my more fun to watch videos. It was well received. We had a good time. Now close your eyes for a second and pretend that you're me. What do you think you feel in that scenario? Are you satisfied or proud of your work maybe? If you figure either of those are right, then the answer is yes, but also no, because there's a secret third option that I didn't mention, and that feeling is disappointment. You may be shocked, you may be wondering, Mo, why are you disappointed about a design you really like? It's because I'm never gonna use it. Unless someday I were to actually write a revamped version of Fantasy, which the more I think about, the more I want to do, but let's stay on topic here. I don't see myself ever using Jolt as a character, which means I wouldn't ever use this design. Because no matter what name I slap onto that design, I'm always gonna see it as Jolt. I know myself, I know that's what'll happen. I told you I'm stubborn. And I don't know if this is me or if other people are like this as well, but I have a tendency to only draw the characters that I'm actively using in a project, like a comic. Other characters that I'm not really developing just aren't on my mind as much as the ones that I am developing, so I don't draw them as much. So even though I have drawn Jolt a couple times since designing him, I haven't drawn him in a while, and that's because I'm just not thinking about him as much. So I'm still not really using that design. And I considered selling it because if I'm not gonna be using this design that I think is good, someone else should use it, right? But I just couldn't do that. It didn't feel right. It's a design based on one of my first characters, and I've grown a very strong emotional attachment to him. I felt like if I was to sell that design, I'd be betraying him in a way. I know he's a character and the only feelings he ever has are the ones that I write for him, but I'm sure anyone else who has a fairly complex relationship with their characters would see where I'm coming from on this. So there I was, with a design I love that I know I'll never use and a feeling of disappointment snuggled deep in my chest. What a sad, sad fate for an artist to go through. That sucks ass. But wait, the story is not over yet. There's more. When I uploaded the Jolt redesign video, I was 3 weeks into a screenwriting course. And in that course, we learned how professionals build up plots. And our main project was to create a plot of our own. We started out with writing a logline, then the synopsis, then the 9 pillars, wrote some scenes, and finally finished off with a 20-page screenplay. But if you wanted extra credit, you could write an extra 10 pages, resulting in 30 pages. I wrote 33. But obviously to do all that, you need an idea, of what you want your story to be, which is the part that I really struggled with, and I had a bit of an emotional spiral, because although I could have just used an idea that I was already developing with the fantasy crew, I wanted to pull away from that and try something else. And there's a specific reason behind that I wanted to talk about. I have been working on the same cast of characters for 7 years now, and after you've been working on something that you've been so consistently frustrated by, you get tired. Even when I was working on other projects, the fantasy crew was always my main priority. It was just always there, you know? And I've reached a point of burnout that I can't ignore anymore. When I was ranting and asking for advice from a friend of mine, they put my feelings into the exact words. They said, "I think you've overanalyzed and picked and prodded at this story and these characters so much it's become less of a passion project and more of a chore. It's a complex situation and you have a complex relationship with these characters. I'm sure you're exhausted from jumping through hoops to try and make sense of something that seemed so simple before." And they're exactly right. I wouldn't have been able to put it into better words if I tried. If I take a second to be honest with myself, I realize that I'm not happy. I'm always gonna hold the fantasy crew in a very special spot in my heart, but I can't go on continuing how I was because it's not healthy. In hundreds of ways, working on these characters has taught me so much about story writing, and I'm glad that it did. But I'd argue that the most important lesson I've learned is that no matter how many people are reading your story, how many people make fan art, how many people say they love it, at the end of the day, that story is yours. You have free reign. And if you get to a point where you realize that what you're working on doesn't make you happy, whether or not you continue working on it is up to you. All of this is just a really roundabout way of telling you that I'm not gonna be working on the fantasy characters anymore. They're not going anywhere. I'm okay having them just exist in the world that I built for them, but they just might not have a comic for a while, if ever. And I'm okay with that being a possibility. They're just existing in my brain, and every once in a while when I'm writing, they'll shout at me going, "Hey dumbass, don't do that one thing that you did with me that one time because I know you'll regret it." Now I'm still the owner of their designs and stories, discontinued or not, so don't get any funny ideas or I will find you. Half joke. Half joke. But I'm ready to let them go and move on to something else, which is why I'm making this video. I'd like to introduce you to my newest project called BIONIC Boulevard. It's a new story that's gonna be a comic that I'm working on. That's the name of it. You know the name now. There's still a lot of context that we need to get through though. My god. Okay, let's make this quick. So I needed a story idea for this project, but I didn't want to use the fantasy characters. I was sitting at my desk trying to brainstorm ideas when suddenly a memory from July of 2020 came sprinting at me like they've been trying to contact me about my car's extended warranty. And before I get into what the memory was, there's even more context that you need. Good lord. In my life online, I've published 4 webcomics. In order from oldest to newest, there is Fantasy, Ameliorate, Camaraderie, and Road to the Remedy. Although I don't really count Ameliorate because it only lasted like a month and a half, and I posted it on an account that I deactivated, so there's no trace of it anywhere. It is the CreatureCabin lost media. But regardless, there was about a year-long period between the discontinuation of Camaraderie and the beginning of Road to the Remedy that I have lovingly dubbed the Story Crisis era. And in this Story Crisis era, I was starting and scrapping projects every other week. I was cycling through stories like I was in a spin class. And I'll admit, some of the concepts I came up with were pretty good, but because those concepts didn't fit the characters I was trying to write at the time, I scrapped them but kept them in the back of my mind for future use. Which brings me back to July of 2020, 3 years ago, where I came up with a concept for a robot apocalypse story and I called it Stage 2. Ow! And if you're willing to scroll all the way to the bottom of my Instagram page, you can still see the original posts from Stage 2. Stage 2 was a story about a robotic apocalypse that I was gonna try and use as a metaphor. I'm not gonna say what for, just in case I want to use that still, but I loved the vibe of it so much, but it just didn't fit the characters I was trying to write. So I scrapped it, and every once in a while I would think about it and think, man, that was a really good story. So there I was, trying to brainstorm concepts for this project, having just agreed with myself that I will not use the fantasy characters. Perfectly vulnerable for an attack from a memory of July of 2020 about Stage 2. I thought, oh my god, this is a thing I wanted to keep in my memory in case I wanted to use it in the future, and now I'm in the future and I can use it. And over the next 6 weeks, I took the little concept of Stage 2 and developed it into something more fleshed out. And I wrote a 33-page, 4,831 word screenplay about these characters. And if you're wondering what characters I'm talking about, then clearly you need to follow my Instagram because I've been talking about them there. The 2 main characters I've been talking about on my Instagram are Aubrey and CODIE. Aubrey is a 15-year-old girl on her own, and CODIE is a robot. And he's the exact robot you've been watching me try to design this whole time. But to bring everything back to the beginning of this video, I'm gonna talk about the JOLT design again because, as you can see, he was being used as a huge reference for CODIE. I considered just using the JOLT design for CODIE, but as I said before, no matter what name I slap onto that design, I'm always gonna see it as JOLT. So I did have to bite the bullet and design another robot, but I use JOLT as a huge reference because I love that design so much, so why not? A couple weeks ago, I tried experimenting with CODIE's design with a more robotic take, but I decided I wanted to give him a more humanoid look for a couple reasons. One of which is because the whole point of his character is that he is a shockingly human design for an android, which in this universe is something we haven't really seen yet, at least where I am right now in the development of the story. As usual, anything I say can and probably will change. But CODIE is a robot not designed to work for humans, but to work with them. So in an attempt to make him seem more approachable through a familiar silhouette, his manufacturers decided to go with a more human look. So that's the story reason, but there's two other reasons. Human silhouettes can be scary, especially if there's something about them that just doesn't seem right. Somewhere in that uncanny valley territory. And I'd say CODIE somewhat fits the bill of slightly off with his 7-foot stature and 2 long limbs. While CODIE looks very friendly in his ref sheet and he is intended to be a healthcare robot, I also wanted to give him every opportunity to be threatening. This story is based off of a robotic apocalypse idea after all, and CODIE is a robot. And in this world's lore, he's a fairly new type of robot. So not only does his silhouette have the opportunity to be slightly uncanny or threatening, but there's also the unpredictability, which is absolutely something I'm trying to play into. As it stands, you don't know what the relationship between Aubrey and CODIE is going to be. He may look very friendly and happy in his ref sheet, but I might be just trying to deceive you. I mean, when we take a look at some of the concept art I've made for him, well, let's just say I'm hoping some of this story ends up being scary. So those are the two longer reasons as to why I made him look humanoid, but the last one is just because I like drawing things that way. With this story, I'm trying to teach myself that me simply wanting things to be a certain way is enough of a reason to have them be that way. I've always envisioned CODIE kind of looking like this, so he will, because I want him to. Like, this way I can give him nice expressions and it's easier for me to draw and memorize his design, and like, I don't know, he's cute. Listen, just hear me out. I had the opportunity to make him pretty. I did what I had to do. Jokes aside, I wanted to bring attention to the idea that if you want something to happen in your story, you can make it happen simply because you want it to happen. There doesn't always have to be a super complex reasoning behind things. You're the creator. If you want to make a cute robot, you can make a cute robot. I would like to say I'm sorry and it won't happen again, but I can't because it will. I think that comes to the end of my notes of things I wanted to talk about. In all honesty, making this design and uploading this video is a bit of a big step for me. I was a little bit anxious that CODIE would end up looking too similar to previous versions of James, because he was James originally, but I'm thinking that's okay. I think it's pretty obvious that there's some similarities between James and CODIE, specifically Road to the Remedy James and CODIE. I gave him like the same hair and goggles. Listen, I don't know what it is about me and goggles, okay? I think they look cute on characters, but I think it's okay if designs that I make have somewhat similar traits sometimes. I have made a lot of character designs in my life, and it's only natural that some of those ideas I will still like and want to reuse. Working smarter, not harder, you know? But anyway, that brings me to the end of this video. It's gotten long enough and I'm tired of talking. I hope you like CODIE, because the intention is that you'll be seeing him a lot more. I know I talked about a lot in this video, so I am very sorry for it being so scattered. I just needed to talk about some stuff. I hope that was okay with you. If you're interested in seeing more of the behind the scenes development going into BIONIC Boulevard, then please follow my Instagram, because that's mostly where it is. I hope you had fun. I hope you liked the new intro. I love it. More on the rebrand soon. Thank you for hanging out. I will see you in the next video. You keep my life bright, my lights. Bye!